Hey guys, welcome to channel DevKage. In this Flutter basics video, I am going to explain how you can easily create sliders in Flutter. So here I have a standard Flutter demo application and I'll quickly remove all these comments and change the title of this app to Slider Demo. As this will be a fairly basic application, we don't need the floating action button and counter variable. So I'll quickly remove them as well. So now let's remove the column inside this center widget and add a slider widget here. Slider widget has two required properties, a value and an onChanged callback function. Value is of type double and it tells the widget where the thumb of the slider should be placed. An onChanged function gets called whenever the thumb of slider moves to a new location. So let's first add the onChanged callback. This will be a function which takes value as input, value being the current position of thumb of the slider. Let's use debug print to display the input value in debug console. And let's also set the value property to 50. Now before I save this, we'll also have to define a lower limit and an upper limit for this slider. This can be done using min and max properties. So let's set the min to 0 and max to 100. And now when I save this code, you can see that we get a slider in our app. If I open up the debug console and try to move the thumb of the slider, you can see the values being printed in the debug console. But the problem is the thumb is not actually moving, and that is because I have hard-coded the value property of the slider to 50. So to fix this, I'll create a new state variable of type double called slider value, and let's set its initial value to 0.0. Now I can replace the hard-coded 50 with slider value. And instead of printing the current value to debug console in onChanged callback, we'll have to copy the current value into slider value. And since this is modifying the state of this widget, I'll put it inside a setState call. And now if I save this and try to move the slider, you can see that now it works as expected. So let's say instead of continuous slider, you want a slider which moves only in discrete steps. For that, you can use the division property. Here you need to specify the number of steps you want for this slider. If I set it to 4 and try to move the slider, you can notice that now it moves only to certain predefined values. Also, if you want to display a string on top of the thumb when it is sliding, you can use the label property. I'll set this to the string hi. And now when I try to move the thumb, you can see that this hi string is getting displayed on top of this thumb. Instead of displaying a static string, let's try to display the current value of slider here. For that, I'll first create a new state variable of type string called slider string. And let's initialize it to the string 0.0. And now in the onChanged callback, after setting value of slider value, let's set slider string to value.round.toString. This will round off the double value to an integer and then convert it to a string before storing into slider string. And let's replace this hi with slider string. Now if I save this code and try to slide the thumb, you can see that we now get the current value of slider in label string. Slider widget also provides option to change the color of active and inactive sides of the slider. If I set the active color property to colors.red, the part on left of the thumb will become red. And if I set the inactive color property to color.blue, the part on right will become blue. Now you might have noticed that this slider can be moved even when the pointer is not on the slider. I can click and hold anywhere in the body of this scaffold and it will still drag the slider. If you don't want this, or if you want to limit the area which controls this slider, you can wrap the slider widget inside a container widget. So just to make it easier to understand, I'll set a color for this container and then I'll set the height to 200. If I save this and check the app, you can see that I can move the slider when I click and hold anywhere inside the container. But if I try to do the same from outside the container, it will not work. If you want, you can even use a combination of clip rect, container and slider widget to add a nice background to the slider and restrict the area from where the slider can be dragged. So that was all for this video. If you found this useful, do hit that like button and maybe consider subscribing to this channel for more such content. I'll hope to see you in the next one.